like, I know you probably had a few coaches on this, like, we would say, they would imagine they would describe themselves as being good coaches and have a good eye for the game. If I was watching a game with my friend, he would notice things, and say it was Everton v Chelsea on the telly, he'd be like, did you notice this and notice that? And I'm like, nah,
never even
I never
noticed it.
seen that. But that's his brain. So he is very much like that. And you know what, that's not a direct result to success either, just like the opposite isn't, because if you look at like Klopp, Sir Alex Ferguson, they're not necessarily like geniuses at tactics. Their personality was what made them so good.
100%.
And that's stuff that I think doesn't get spoken about enough now, is the personality of the coach. Everyone's like, how good is... You know, I know we'll be speaking about this, but Pep, I get annoyed by Pep.
Do you? I
get annoyed, but everybody loves Pep, but I just think it's... I don't doubt his genius, and of course he's a genius, but, you know, I think there's other... It's almost like everybody wants to play his style and way now. That frustrates me. I see old highlights, it's like nostalgic, and it's like... it was Arjen Robben highlights the other day, just running at people.
You don't get it anymore.
Wingers don't run at anybody anymore.
Mate, they're all inverted now.
There was a Zidane one, and there was a Pavel Nedved one. They were players I grew up watching. I'm like, but how they play now, they're taking maybe 8 touches on the ball before they move it on. People would be like, 1 and 2 touch. And I'm like, well, that's good if you're Rodri. And of course, but why would you tell your wingers to play 1 and 2 touch?
I agree with that, man. I don't think you can beat a winger. Like, I like Lewis. I'm a Liverpool fan. It's like, I love Luis Diaz, because he just tries to run past 3-4 people, and it's like, it's so refreshing to see, because it's not really what they do anymore.
Well, Grealish is probably the best example, because he literally done that at Aston Villa, ran at people all the time, signed for Man City for 100 million, and he's on the bench, which is for me, that's not coaching. Having a £100 million player on your bench is not coaching, and then he comes on and he just passes it like in the pitch. It's like
I've read both the books from Pep, the Barca one and the Bayern one. I think it's in the Bayern one.
Oh, the Confidential and the Blue Book and the Red Book. I've read them as well, but it was years ago. They were good. I'm
pretty sure it was in that one where he says that he really likes to, like, not even have like a starting 11. He likes to have different types of players for different games. So like a Grealish might be better in a game where he feels maybe he can run at them a little bit, but I totally know what you mean. Like, it's almost like, and then he's got Doku as well. Like, they're two completely different people.
I know.
And
but I just see, like, and I know I'm going to be repeating myself shortly, but we see like a lower Scottish division team, and then like the fans are saying like they should be playing it for the back and playing it better, and I think like that manager should be allowed to have his own tactic, and that's what I'm like. Like, I've got my own opinion on how the game should be played, but I don't enforce that on other people. And I like Ancelotti and I like Simeone, and they couldn't be more opposite, and they can both play against each other in Champions League finals, which shows you that football doesn't have one rule for all.
Absolutely.
But it's like everybody's been brainwashed now that you have to play like Pep. And again, that's the thing that I commented on.
That's what you said.
Was that academies, like, they're being told to do that, like 6-0 down. I still roll it out, ball taken off, bang, 7-0. How is that good? And what planet is that good?
It's not benefiting. It's not benefiting.
But it's for me, it's frustrating. And see, if you want to play long and play off second balls, good, so be it. If some people disagree, that's just life.
Exactly.
We could both watch a film and you think it's good and it's bad.
Exactly, mate.
Like, it's just
you
life.
don't need to agree on it. You
but,
don't need to agree on it, man.
Society and culture now is very much like that, and on anything, you know, people think you have to agree with everything about them, or they don't like you as a person, but surely you should be able to have different views and opinions.
Oh, mate, I know. The amount of times you're in the pub and you're having those chats, and even if it's not football, say like
politics or
life stuff, and you're just like, I'm allowed to. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's how I think about it.
And it doesn't change like how that. You know, I'll still do the same job for a kid tomorrow night at coaching, whether I was left wing, right wing, whether I was short passing style coach, long passing style coach, whether I like horror films or comedy films. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to be there tomorrow helping your son.
Exactly, mate.
But it seems to influence people's thought processes.
Massively, mate, massively. And especially with the football stuff, especially the coaching. It's that kind of like snobbiness of like, that's how it should be done.
That'll hopefully be something that we can talk about, because
100%. That was my thought process.
The Pep thing does bother me. Again, as I say, without doubting his genius, he is a genius, and I give him credit for that, but we shouldn't all have to play like Pep. It's frustrating.
I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. That's why I wanted to do it with you. I obviously commented on that, and to be fair, Liam was the first guy I've done the coach with.
Was he the first one? I wasn't sure.
He was the first one, yeah. So
when I seen his, I thought, that's interesting. That's why I commented.
Because obviously that's what I did for, like I said, I did that for 10 years, man. So and obviously it was in America, and I came back, and when I first came back, don't know how Liam had heard I was back, and he just messaged me and just said, look, like, heard you're back from America, heard good things about you, do you want to come and work summer camps and then see how it goes? And at the time I'd just moved home, it was COVID, so I was home with my mum and dad, and I thought, why not, like, I'll go do the summer. And I worked for them, and I loved it, and I thought he did a really good job. And then he did offer me to kind of go on with him. But I was like, look, man, it's just not what I want to do anymore. Like, I just don't. And obviously, as it is, like, even I was wanting to get out my mum and dad's house quickly because I was 27, 28. I'd lived away for 8 years. I didn't want to be back with my parents again for 5 more years. And
exactly.
I said that to him. I was like, look, man, like, I did this when I was 16. Like, I can't restart again. Like, it's not what I want to do. And that was.
But you would appreciate that honesty as well, rather than you just winging it along.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that makes most sense. But no, I listened to bits of Liam's one because him and I have probably actually got a very similar, because we coached against each other a little bit. I went to Hearts, you went to Hibs. I had my private academy, he had his private academy. And when I see him, I speak to him, and I think it's very good that he's taken the Musselburgh job, because that for me, again, as I've got older, my opinions change. If I was on this 7 years ago and I was at Hearts, bright-eyed boy, Hearts is amazing and all that. Now when you realise, I'm like, no, you should go into real football, like senior football, or even what I'm trying to do with Lochend. Again, we'll probably speak about this, but like, you're just micromanaged at academies. You know, you've got everybody else to do something for you. You've got a sports science department, you've got a physio, you've got a head of video analysis, you've got other coaches influencing your tactics, and you've got people like Craig Levine telling me to like change my wingers or not 10 minutes into a game. And then say you lose that game 2-0, I'm like, well, is that my fault or is that Craig Levine's fault? But how am I meant to learn? I would rather, like, I always thought if I was to go into a coach educator position, I would do all my feedback after. So then at least that person, that coach knows for the 90 minutes, everything was on him. And then I'd go, right, so you lost 2-0, what you saying? Rather than me influencing him 10 minutes into the game.
Massively,
did that make it worse, or did it help? But you don't know.
You don't know, And then you can't evaluate yourself on
that was what because they used to speak about that player evaluation, player reviews and all. I went, well, what about coaches? You know, surely if you get your coaches to a level, you're going to get your players to a better level. But it was like, it just fell on deaf ears.
I know, man.
And again, I liked Craig Levine when I first met him, because you're 22, 23, you're like, he's managed this club, the national team. But very much he's a guy that's just going to do things his own way.
Fair enough, man. And that's why he's there, But yeah, weekend, is everything good, and we're recording that? Sweet. Yeah, man, we'll just keep that in there, mate. It's just a fucking good bit of a chat. But if we get into it, man, we'll go for we'll talk about literally everything that you just hit there was my thought process, and we'll let it go, mate. So, we'll go for, like I said to you, man, 45 minutes to an hour, give or take. I'll obviously let it run if it's still going. I'm not just gonna randomly stop it.
Halfway through a sentence.
Yeah, done, man. But yeah, man, just literally just what we were just doing there. We'll just keep it like that. I don't have like set questions and that. We'll
that's
just
best.
And even if you want to ask me stuff, obviously, because I've done it when we get into it, feel free to ask me questions too.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, if we're good to go, we'll get into it. So, got Declan Fergus here. Obviously we'll put in all that stuff that we just talked about, Declan. But thanks for coming on and doing this, man. I do appreciate it.
I'm pleased to be here, so thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Obviously, like we just said there, you did comment on one of the posts I did with Liam, and I just kind of thought, all right, cool, interesting. I think it would be a good conversation to have. And plus, I'm just going with this myself, like just letting it go and getting people on. And you know, obviously, you commented and was like, oh, I could do coaches, because I did that for a while. So. It was good that you commented. It was obviously just a bit meant to be, man. But you're coach at Lochend. So what are the teams and stuff you've got at Lochend?
Yeah, so coaching at Lochend currently, where I've got my own private coaching academy, and then I have the specific team, which is the 2009 born, which is under 15s. So we're just about to finish our season and become under 16s, to be fair, which will be my 4th year with that team, which is good because it gives you that natural progression through with them. So what would they been? 12 years old when I first had them, they're now going to be 16. So you see a massive development in their personalities, their character, their ability, and even the way I like communicate with them or interact with them is different from those 4 years ago. So based at Lochend, I have the academy as well, which is private sessions, camps. You know, we do one-to-one, small group sessions.
What's it called again?
It's just the Declan Fergus Coaching Academy, and I'd been at Hearts for 5 years, and I was at Falkirk for 6 months. So in the academy system for 5.5 years prior to going to Lochend and then setting up that team. And I'd been, when I was at Hearts, I don't know how many people know this, but when you're at academies, they're not well-paid jobs. But if you go in at 21, 22, probably firstly, you're happy to be there. You know, if you're coaching for Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers, Motherwell, St Mirren, doesn't matter. You'll be happy to be there, happy to do the job, and you'll go above and beyond because of your age and because of what you think it'll lead to. You know, I went in taking a 7-a-side team, and I don't think you should burst anybody's bubble with this either, but only when I look back, I'm thinking you're just like, it was lower level, but I was taking 7-a-side, but I was thinking I'm going to work my way through Hearts, I'm going to be first team manager. But again, ambition is good and dreams are good. Now, I sit here as a 30-year-old and I look back going, well, delusional is maybe harsh, but it's borderline is.
Yeah.
But people have got to have those ambitions and aims, but it's not going to happen either sometimes at academies. You know, you're just not going to be able to go through like that if you don't have the high level playing pedigree and background. And as I was going to say, with the job not being well paid, you almost have to counterbalance it with something. So I'd done that with education and went to college to do sports coaching qualifications.
What college did you go to?
I actually went through the West. I went to New College, Lanarkshire,
right, okay.
which was based at Broadwood Stadium.
Okay.
So I thought I'd be better taking myself out of Edinburgh, going somewhere fresh and new. And then I knew the tutors and lecturers were people that had been involved in football. So like Todd Lumsden, Sandy Clark, Alan Moore. I don't know if you'll know who they are, but the Sandy Clark's Nicky Clark's dad.
Okay.
So he played for Rangers and Hearts and all that stuff. He's about in his 60s now.
Yeah.
But they said it was the best sports college in Scotland. So I thought, well, I'll commit to getting up early to go, because if you want something, commit to it. So I went through and done education, like H&C, H&D and sports coaching, but then I was like, I need money as well. And you don't want to be one of the guys that you don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh, I created this or I done this. But as far as I'm aware, I was one of the first people to start doing one-to-ones, because it wasn't a done thing. Like I grew up with some really good coaches taking me, but one-to-ones weren't a thing. I never went to one-to-ones as a kid.
I agree.
I don't know if you did.
Yeah, no, never, mate. Yeah.
So I thought, parents and kids are a bit different now, and they want to put a lot of focus into doing as much as possible. And then I was taking teams at that point. I think I started off at Lochend, I was joining Hearts, and then I was doing the one-to-ones. But I was going to like Arthur Street, you know the flat bit of Arthur Street, it's across the pond. So I had my car, just had a wee small car as well, my first car packed with hurdles and balls in the back, taking a session. But it'd be £20 a kid or whatever. And I was like, well, that's perfect. It's petrol money, pays my trains going through to college. And then it started to grow, got based at Lochend, and I was able to do more private coaching to fund life, to give yourself money to buy whatever you need to buy in life.
Yeah, that's good, man. And so, out of curiosity, if you don't mind saying, like, what are you getting paid if you're doing that thing at Hearts, if you can remember?
Oh, at Hearts, they would pay us monthly, and if I think back to the first course, they would have gave us maybe £350 a month.
And what are you pretty much every day?
I think because they're clever in their recruitment, not just the players but the coaches. So they're going to get a 22-year-old that wants to be the first team manager. So I'm going to be willing to come in most days. Whereas they're not going to want a 55-year-old that's been there and done that, is going, I don't like how this operates, I want paid more money, I'm not coming in on my day off and whatever. So I would have been 5 out of 7 days in at Hearts. And when I first moved out of my family house and I was looking at flats, I got a flat in Gorgie so I could be close. So just things like that were going into my mindset and thought process.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I never did like obviously we said before, but I just went straight to the States, So like I started at 16 and I was still playing just at North Berwick, like not a high level or anything. I was like, love football, want to do something with it, what could I do? And that was when I started, like, you used to get 4-4-2 and you had like a session at the back of 4-4-2. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to volunteer and do the coaching, and just did that once a week and stuff like that. But I just went straight to the States, so I never got into the whole like academy. Yeah,
like, I was always interested in the States. You know what's funny is, people would often ask me why I went into coaching. I was looking forward to going into coaching, like as a player. And I know this is a quote that I'm sure Klopp's used, so I'm not trying to pass it off as my own. But I'm sure he said something like he felt he had the brain for the Champions League and he had the legs for Championship or whatever.
Say that. Yeah, he did.
And my one would be slightly different than that, but for it being relative to me, mine was similar. Now I was a decent player, a good player. I'd played at academies, I played the highest level boys club. But when you realise you're probably not going to play at the highest level, I thought, like, I remember being 14, 15, playing under 14s, 15s, and I was thinking I would go home and write what I thought the starting lineup should be, who I think the coach should recruit for that season for other teams, what I thought the tactics and formation should be. And then when my mates were playing online FIFA against each other, I was going career mode and try to create a 5-year dynasty at Man United. And I was like, I can't wait to go into coaching. So people often speak about it as it's a shame playing didn't go well, whatever. I'm like, no, like, I'm happy with that career choice suited me, and I was happy for that. When I stopped playing, I was in the Lowland League, so semi-pro, but I wasn't enjoying it. The last couple of years I wasn't enjoying. I was injured a lot, wasn't playing at the level that I maybe thought I was going to play at, and then it was like a breath of fresh air and a new lease of life when I went into coaching. It was like, I'm responsible for 16 young boys that looked to me to to organise training, to deliver training. I've got to deliver team talks, I've got to deal with parents,
Yeah.
I've got to name players on the bench, so you've got to deal with not just always being positive emotion, but how do you deal with negative emotion. That's life. And I was like, this is great. As you said, you just remind me, you said about 442 designing training sessions. I was on YouTube, I was creating my own ones, and then somebody doesn't text you they're coming to training, so if you've planned for 12 and you've got 11, what the hell do I do? But you've got to adjust, you've got to adapt. So no, I was always excited to go into coaching, looking forward to going into coaching, and I've been doing it for 9 years now, and I've loved it.
Yeah, man. And you started off, like, I think the good thing is too, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but like we talked about, like, ex-players typically being the ones that, clubs would maybe want to hire. And I said that with Liam when I did this too, with even Musselburgh. I was like, I think Musselburgh are getting ahead of the curve early, getting guys, even yourself, I will maybe get into it if you're wanting to try and look to do that, but getting ahead of the curve early, I think the opportunity's there now for guys that are like you to try and get those jobs, and I think that's the way football's going. And I think that it's a bit outdated if you're continuing to think that way about just having that. So
definitely, and I don't think my friend would want me to name him, but I've got an example of a friend at a big club. I don't know if I should mention the club either, but he was working with under 18s there, and I know that club that's probably the biggest club in Scotland, so that maybe gives it away. And they just want ex-pros going at these roles. I've never seen the ex-pros coach, but because they played for Celtic, they'll be in at under 18s or B team level. And then you could have somebody like my friend who's an excellent coach, but no playing background or pedigree. But playing is playing, coaching is coaching. They're two separate things. Of course they can interlink, but they're separate. And when I done my B licence and A licence, the ones that sometimes struggled the most, and I say struggled in a nice way, like they were on the B licence and the A licence for a reason, they were trying to better themselves, but the ones that seemed to have a little bit more problems were the ex-pros. And I remember speaking to one, trying to pick his brain, and he said, I've been told to put a yellow bib on for 17 years, go stand in that mannequin, then you go from here to here to here, you finish with a shot at goal, join the back of the queue. He went, I don't know how to set that up and then orchestrate that. He said, I've been told to do this, told to do that, go here. Now I'm the one that has to tell people where to go.
Exactly.
And for me, he said that distances were confusion for him, the layout and setup of drills was confusing for him. And I thought, that's interesting, you've played at such a high level, and I would think it would become second nature for you, but obviously it doesn't work like that. So coaches maybe deserve more credit, especially the ones that, what we're meaning, young coaches that have not played professionally.
I agree.
They've applied themselves for 9, 10, 11, 12 years. Give them a chance at some of these jobs. And Sir Alex said that about players, young players, they very rarely let you down. Well, why don't we try it with management and coaching, and maybe these guys will not let you down.
Exactly.
And it'd be better for our game.
And it's also it's like anything in life. You've got to, at the end of the day, the folk that you're going to be coaching will be, let's just say, you did coach like a men's team. They're going to be our age, 30, or a little bit younger, and you're able to connect with them because you're their age. Whereas if you're someone that's played, 25 years ago and had a great career and played great, like you played pro in that, I couldn't say shit on that. But I think those guys sometimes find it hard to connect with the youth because they're disconnected from it. And I think obviously at the absolute highest level, like, your guys like your Klopps and your Peps or whoever, your Pochettinos and that, I mean, those guys have to do that, right? They have to connect with the youth, and like, what is the new way moving forward? Like, what are the academies doing that I then need to adapt to and change my way of coaching?
Definitely. Because so I've been 4 years with my Lochend team, and to be fair, I actually had said to them last year that I was probably only going to do 3. I'd said that for the outset, to be fair. I took them just before we were going 11-a-side, because you go competitive and 11-a-side at 13s. So I started the team probably in March to go competitive in August.
Cool.
And I said, I'll run you 13s, 14s, 15s and do the 3 years. But I've assembled such a good team of not just players, but of kids. Parents are great, parents are great, players are great, the whole environment's great. We've achieved success, and success has different looks. So and again, without trying to sound like Billy Big Time, whatever, we've won trophies, and we just won the Scottish Cup, which was a life ambition for me. But success is also maybe, and again, I don't want to sound cliche here either, but personal development or growth within some of the kids. To some of the boys that joined super shy, are now able to speak confidently in the changing room, an environment of their peers being around them, or I've seen some of them participating in wee celebrations after games with their mates. They've grabbed a microphone thing to do whatever, and I thought that's good. I hear about some of the things they're doing away from football, because I obviously have an interest in that. So you see that growth, and I thought, well, I'll do one more season with them, which will be this year coming, 16s. But if I was looking at my own journey and next steps, it'd probably be senior football.
Yeah, that's good.
And you would just need to have a good owner or chairman that's willing to put faith in you, because you need to be given a little bit of time.
Yep.
Even at Lochend, this is why I get frustrated at first team football. Managers are getting judged after a few months. We're at Lochend, and I had quite a lot of coaching pedigree to go. I've been at Hearts for 5 years, and then going to Lochend, a lot of people would have seen that as a backward step.
Yeah.
It isn't, for reasons that I'll come to in a second, but we never won anything at under 13s. And I really needed to get to that second season to assemble and build my true squad and proper squad, and them have a year with me to be familiar, get used to my drills, to improve as players. And then we win a treble at 14s, and we win a double this year at 15s.
Class.
And you're like, first team managers not given any time. I can tell you from personal experience, you need to be given time at whatever level.
Yeah.
And the reason why I would say that it isn't a backward step going from, for example, my case, Hearts to Lochend, is when I was at Hearts, and now I enjoyed my time at Hearts, so I don't want to seem like I'm bashing it or whatever, but you definitely need to be young going there at 22, 23, because you have to deal with, does it matter what words you use on this?
Say whatever you want to say, mate.
You have to deal with a little bit of shit
Yeah.
when you're there, because you're young, so willing to deal with that. I wouldn't deal with that stuff now at 30. I'd be telling people where to go. I'm not doing this, not doing that. But then you're like, I'll do this, I'll do that. You're not getting paid a lot of money, but you're constantly thinking of that dream or ambition of what this may lead to.
Yes.
But at Hearts, we had like physios, you've got sports science, you've got video analysts, you've got other coaches, you've got a schools programme, you've got head of departments. They've all got their fingers in your pie, if you're thinking your team is your pie.
Aye.
And then, I know we spoke about this before the show, but sometimes guys will try to help you in coach educating roles or coach educator roles, and if my game's maybe 15 minutes in, we're 1-0 down, and he's telling me change this, change that, and you do it, and then you lose 3-0, and you're rubbing your chin after the game, you're like, was that me or was that him? With my own tactics and my own decisions, being able to pull back for that 1-0 deficit to win 2-1, I could go away and evaluate that. We've lost 3-0, but I don't feel that was nothing to do with me. So how do I learn and grow?
He may as well have coached the game.
He may as well have.
Yeah.
And I would say if I was to go into a coach educator position or role, I would always allow the coach in question to go have the duration of his match, make his own decisions tactically, to do with his system, to do with player personnel, substitutions, or even how he's motivating and encouraging the players. Whatever comes of that, good, bad or indifferent, we can talk about that and discuss it and evaluate afterwards, but he knows all the decisions lay with him. Nobody wants anything more than the right to make their own decisions.
Yeah, man.
So going from, in my case, from Hearts to Lochend, I'm responsible for everything at Lochend.
Yeah.
The designing and implementing of every training session, the delivery of it, how I speak to the players when I host one-to-one reviews with them and their parents. If I want to do a night of fitness, if I want to do a night on heading, that's on me. How coaching styles comes in it as well, which will probably be another topic, but I like to coach in an intense, energetic way, and that's just what works for me. It works for the players that come under my disposal. At Hearts, I would maybe be showing that, and they'd be like, you need to be quiet, get your notepad out, just write wee things in your notepad, speak to them at the intervals. That ain't my style. That's not my style. So I wasn't being given the platform or the opportunity to grow. And I always use the sort of comparison or analogy of like Simeone and Ancelotti, because they play in the same league against each other, competing to win La Liga. They've faced each other in the Champions League final in 2014. So the same level of competition, reaching the same finals, polar opposite coaching styles. So there's no right, one rule for all. It's not like you must coach this way to have success. People can be different.
Absolutely.
And every player's different, and my job's to get the best out of every player. Why is it not the same for coaches? And I used to think, let me be the energetic, fairly intense guy that wants to shout stuff at the sideline, that wants to coach, that if I see my fullback make 2 mistakes in a row, I'll correct him so he doesn't do it again. Like, oh, no. I'm like, I make him make 7 mistakes in this game, and I don't think that helps his learning either. Maybe once or twice I can let go, not 7. So I felt that, the environment probably wasn't right for me, and I think I'd be speaking for a lot of other people as well, that academies haven't been right for them. And if you go into boys club football or senior football, you're not going to have somebody coming over and saying, just write things on a notepad and speak to them at intervals. For me, that's like tippy-tappy nonsense coaching, and I don't think it works.
Mate, and again, all you need to do, for me, I always say this, is look at what the top coaches are doing, right? And nowadays, Sir Alex Ferguson be a good one. I'm sure when he was a bit younger was maybe a bit more on the sideline, but he'd sit up in that chair, right? And that's how he would do it. Nowadays, I say this, I don't want to say this about like Ten Hag at Man United, right? I'm a Liverpool fan, so maybe a little bit biased here, but like, you know, Klopp, Pep, Arteta, even Pochettino, De Zerbi, those guys are on the fucking sideline as if they're kicking every single ball.
Simeone, they're ballistic.
Yeah, and they're not in their technical area, and like I have a lot of people that are like, oh, Arteta pisses me off, and I'm like, I totally get it. Like I do see that, and when Liverpool played them, but you know, whatever, but. It's like, nah, but like that's what it is now. Like even those guys are doing that. So to the days of, or just the days of, it'll come back round again at some point. But right now, what it is about, it's about what you just said. It's about having the energy, and you're almost, you know, you're coaching those sessions, and you're giving the energy to the kids. So when it comes to the game, that's what they expect. That's what they know. And even if you went on to do a men's team as well, and that's what it was, that's what you get in the game.
Energy and enthusiasm are key to coaching. And standards that you set out, and I used to, exactly what you've just said, I used to say that back as my response. I used to say, but what about Pep and all that stuff? And then they would say to me, but he's coaching first team football. I'd be like, but we're preparing kids for first team football, so why should it be different? Is that not the whole problem in the academy system? Is that we're preparing them for this false football, that's why we've got such a lack of academy players breaking through to first team, because academy looks so different for first team football. They're polar opposite. So how would that be a natural progression to go through if they're opposites feature?
Exactly.
Surely we should prepare them for what's to come. And right now, if you look at who's really breaking through at any of our clubs, if you compare us to other countries, you know, I seen something today. We've got the oldest squad at the Euros,
right? Okay,
or something like that, and our youngest player is like the fourth oldest or something.
Yeah.
And it's like. And to be fair, we've been unlucky with injuries because our young players got injured, didn't they? Ben Doak and Hickey and Ferguson and all that. So there is a wee bit unfortunate bad luck there as well. But I don't see a lot of players breaking through in Scotland just now, and ones that have done really well for us have moved away and done well. So Gilmore moved away, McGinn moved away.
Robertson obviously went away early, but
so it's like they have to go somewhere else to, you know, really look to improve and progress at their game. And I think, what are we doing wrong? But there's so many answers that could be, you know, the managerial merry-go-round. Why did Aberdeen appoint Neil Warnock? What is the point in that? That is crazy.
That was a fucking appointment ever, yeah.
But I seen people that I follow on Twitter saying this is an amazing appointment. This is like a breakthrough appointment. I was going to write back saying like, how on earth is this a good appointment? What's the boy's name? Is it Peter Levin?
Peter Levin, I think. Right. Yeah.
He's good, no? A young coach that knows. Why not just give him the job?
Exactly. But it's what we were saying about still employing folk that are like have the name.
He's 75, isn't he, Neil Warnock?
Yeah.
I don't. And Aberdeen are a big club, and I love Sir Alex, and my players that I coach and the parents interact with are probably, and my pals as well. They'll be sick to death of me speaking with Sir Alex. I reread his books all the time, and I quote his stuff, and I think he was just the best. And for me, Aberdeen should be a huge club. He made them like that. But appointing Neil Warnock is crazy. Hibs, what's that, 4 or 5 managerial appointments they've got wrong. You know, there's loads of clubs like that are just not getting appointments right. And it's like, well, why not look within to what you have? Give one, rather than giving Neil Warnock that pay packet on his retirement to come up to Scotland for a few months and get more payment. Give it to a young boy like Peter Levin and let him take the bull by the horns and see how he does.
Mate,
not going to learn another
massively,
way.
Man. Do you know? And as well on that too. Like it's you know, I was away for 8 years, so and I'm a Liverpool fan. So obviously in America, you're not really getting Scottish games and that. So I lost a bit of touch with it. Always would check the scores and watch the highlights on YouTube, but lost a bit of touch with it. I've got back into it now when I'm back, and you know, hear the chat about, you know, the money's not there and all that. And look, I do get that's a factor in it. But to me, you don't need to have the money to allow a coach to, same as what you're just saying with your Lochend team, to have 3-4 years to try and coach players and build something in a, I don't want to use this word, like in a more modern type way of football. Like I don't think that excuse flies if you give a young guy time and chance. And again, sometimes it doesn't work out, and you need to sack him. But
and see if that does happen, at least you try. And I know people would probably, for what I'm saying, they'd probably put the Cathro example back down me. But you know what? That wasn't. There was side pieces to that went right either. Like for me, why would you appoint Austin McPhee and Ian Cathro together? There were two young guys in experience. If you're going to put an Ian Cathro in, you need to put somebody with experience with him as an assistant or whatever. And also the fact that if you actually look at Ian Cathro's personality, he's just not suited to be a manager. And it's as black and white as that. And that is actually football for you. You know, if you look at Klopp, could people put on better training? Could I put on a better training session than Klopp? And I don't mean that arrogantly. Like 100 other people would probably say yeah. But could I control a changing room and go through the emotions and give team talks like him? No. And football's about emotion.
Yeah.
And I feel that academies take the emotion out of it. And it's like they're creating robots. Coaching robots, player robots. And I don't think that works. You should want players to play with intensity, aggression, passion, enthusiasm, energy, and you'll reap reward. Is Scotland not built on like the foundations of some of those traits and characteristics?
Massively. Yeah.
And now it's probably, until recently, I'd never seen my country at a major tournament until 28.
When we made it in COVID,
the COVID one, And it's like, it's because we're trying to copy other models. You know, Iceland were good at, let me get my years right, Euro 2016, Iceland.
Yep.
Here they were speaking about, well, copy the Icelandic model. Why? Well, because they've had one good Euro. That could be a bit of luck, a bit of fluke. Why would you want to copy Spanish, German, Icelandic? Why would you want to copy anything? Because your own culture and society is your own culture and society.
Exactly.
Scottish kids are different from Icelandic kids. Create your own game model, your own programme, your own infrastructure, and follow it and implement it, and don't chuck it or tear it up and put it in the bin after 6 months. You aren't going to see results after 6 months if you're talking about a 12-year-old kid. You're going to need to give it 8 years. And then maybe at 18, with 8 years of that coaching, if you started at 12, or, being 20 years old, between 18 and 20, that's maybe something that goes into your first team. But that's what you need. Take a 12-year-old, give him 8 years. When he becomes 20, is he ready to go play first team football? The answer should be yes, if you've got the right coaches in place, the right infrastructure in place, the right backing in place, and you just need players and parents to follow suit with it. But if you coach properly, and I know like society and culture can influence a lot of these things because we're in the blame culture now, aren't we? You know, I've had to deal with that before. You know, if we'll make something up, if Tommy isn't getting a game or doing well, it's my fault. Or it's somebody else's fault. Then the parent comes saying, oh, you're playing him in the wrong position, or he's not quite understanding this, or whatever else. And I'm like, now hang on a minute. Like, 15 other kids are thriving and doing well. And it's like, why don't you look at your own kid first? And without going away from football too much, but that is a societal issue, cultural issue. I hear it at schools, if kids are getting bad exam results, or and bring it back to football, if they're not doing so great at sport, it's the teacher's fault, or it's the coach's fault, or it's a parent's fault, or they just blame it on something like ADHD. And I know that can be a touchy subject for some things, but really I think like if you just say, oh, my son's got ADHD, it's just a blame for the behaviour. If a teacher is saying to the parent, he's struggling to apply himself in class, and the parent just, oh, he's got ADHD. That's just an excuse. The parent takes no responsibility. The player takes no responsibility. It's ADHD's fault.
Exactly.
How are you going to get forward with that?
Mate, I mind when I was maybe not quite 15, maybe younger, 14, and I was just, again, playing for my team, North Berwick, and I wasn't really playing and getting on in that. And again, weren't really paying. The subs were like 50 quid a year or whatever, right? Something like that. And I remember saying to mum and dad, like, just not enjoying it. I'm not playing and I feel frustrated. And I remember saying to my dad, like, can you speak to the coach? And he was like, you go speak to him. If you ask him why you're not playing. Like, he's like, look, I don't like not seeing you play either, but like, you go ask him. Like, you're at training. I don't know what you're doing at training. I just drop you off and go, right? So you go and ask him. And I agree with you 100%. And again, that was something
that's good for your dad. As a coach, I would like that. And rather than a dad going, because nowadays, again, my group at Lochend are good, so I'm not meaning name, I'm talking about past experiences and encounters. But straight away, something doesn't go right, I need to speak to the coach, I need a meeting with him. And I thought, like at Hearts and academies, they pander to it a little bit, which is not good. And, if for anything good to come, sometimes in life, a little bit of hardship, adversity, setbacks, failures, negativity, you need to deal with that to come out the other end. There is no such thing as just a story going like that, unless you're watching a Disney film or something like that. You need setbacks, you need hardship, you need adversity, you need failure, and you'll grow for that. Again, without sounding cliche and just try to use buzzwords, it's genuine. It's true. You need to go through those things to become a better version. Andy Robertson's the perfect example. We spoke about him earlier. Released for Celtic, drops down to part-time football at Queen's Park, working in Tesco, Sainsbury's, whatever it was, does well at Queen's Park. If I'm getting right, goes to Dundee United to do well, goes to Hull, goes to Liverpool, wins the Champions League, captain his country. Would that happen if Celtic never released them at that time?
Maybe not,
You need that, but it's like parents are just, they want to wrap their kids in cotton wool. Can't go through any hardship, can't go through any adversity. You need it. You should embrace it.
Absolutely, mate. I would honestly say, without getting too personal, but I'd say that even the last 4 years for me, from deciding not wanting to coach and being in America and being stuck there for a little bit with COVID, and then coming home and the world being a bit mad, and then not knowing what to do with myself really, and now this has come along, and I think this is the plan. But mate, for 4 years, even just a lot of things, I felt like I was like, fuck, things aren't going for me. But I did, and you do it even as you get older. You sometimes you kind of moan and complain, but it's like you've got to take responsibility and like work it out and sort it out. And,
you have to. You're right. You have to take responsibility, and that's what I say about like my coaching. I try and put as much. I speak to the players about stuff like this. I speak about it's so easy to be a would have, could have, should have, if, buts, maybes. That's so easy. I say to them all the time, I use this analogy. I could go to a pub and there's guys sitting at the stool looking up at the screen in the corner going, I was better than him. If only that coach had given me a chance. Ifs, buts, maybes, could have, would have, should have. And I'm like, that guy's a loser. He's sitting at the bar reminiscing about things that could have. You know what? He just didn't apply himself. He just didn't commit to what he needed to do. Everybody's got a sob story. They've never taken on responsibility or accountability for their own actions. They wanted to drink, party, go and do whatever else because that was easy. It's easy to do that stuff. It's hard to be disciplined. It's hard to go and be the 1%, the 1%er. It's so easy to say, I could have been a football player and sit at a pub in your 30s, 40s, 50s and think that you're the talk of your local town or whatever else. Loser. I think that the people are losers.
I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. There's loads of people like that, isn't there? But I mind just when we're talking there about, I remember I had loads of these situations. You probably do too, especially because you do your one-on-ones and that. But I mind I was coaching. I had this loads of times, and I had parents come up to me and be like, why is so and so not playing and getting a lot of game time? And they would maybe use an example of another kid, and I'd be like, we have 2 sessions a week. I also put on a third extra one for an hour where whoever's there, we just play a game. So if there's loads, we'll do 11v11 or whatever it was, right? We'll just play. You never come to that. Also, that kid you've mentioned also does those 3 things. He's really into his football right now. I know for a fact he's also doing 2 other one-on-one sessions a week. Why do you think he's getting better and playing?
Exactly.
But you're coming twice a week for an hour each time, which is great. I know that's just what's scheduled in, and that's fine. I'm not blaming you for that, but you're putting blame on. Well, he's putting more work in. Yeah, that's why.
Because it's easy to blame.
Exactly,
it's easy to pass the buck. It's easy to pass responsibility. It's easy to blame. The harder thing to do is to look within. And I honestly think that, again, that's why I'm going to continue that extra year with my group of boys and my team, because I think that when I say these things to them, they process it, they retain that information, and they're looking to go apply that information. And you need that. I don't need them to be getting A's in every subject at school. If I just have a few things that go and work for them, and I know that I've helped them in that sense, and then obviously my duty and responsibility is to help them as kids and as young football players, then great, and that's job done. And I think that's also why I feel as a coach I need to have responsibility and control. Whereas at Hearts I felt like there's a puppet master above me and I'm just the puppet getting moved. And I think that's still common at academies, and these people should look to go and do their own thing. But
is that team that you've got right now? So like the 3 going into your 4th year, is that the longest time period you've stuck with like one group of kids? Yeah,
and I actually spoke to my mate about that recently because I was watching, again, no shock, like a Sir Alex documentary, and it was like, he was talking about building from this year to the next year, and I thought, well, I can actually try and apply some of those methods now, whereas at an academy you probably have the 1 year with your team. And then, to be honest, after about 9 months, the kids are looking, say they're under 14s. Who's under 15 coach? Let's look to impress him now. So it's never the same feeling, whereas I feel like an actual manager in my team at Lochend. It's me and the boys and the parents and the other coaches that help me together as a unit, as a collective. And, I've not got my players looking at the coach going, I'm going to be with him in a few months, so let's impress him now. It's just with me. And it's things like, I'm responsible for recruitment, I'm responsible for trying to add to the team, to make the players I've got better at my own disposal, everything. And, I need that responsibility to grow as a coach myself.
Totally.
And I think as a country, we look, surely if you have better coaches, in return you're going to have better players.
I always thought that.
Because are we doing enough now as coaches, academies, as a society, as a culture to produce? We've never really had a world-class player, have we, for years?
Not
and
for a long time.
That's been the difference between, what was the... Again, I'm forgetting years now. I must obviously be getting old, but we were in a group not long ago with Wales and Poland. And, Poland. I always remember that because Poland had Lewandowski and Wales had Gareth Bale. And I'm like, we don't have that individual player. Why? I don't know. Is it stifled in the way that we coach? And also, I was never overly impressed with some of the coaching I seen at academy level. I don't know. I think it was a lot of box tickers. Again, I'm not speaking for everybody because some of them were, my mate, for example, I said I was at Hearts at the time. He was a really good coach, and there's a couple others, but the majority, the bulk, were box tickers, and they were always just what impressed the person that was in the position of hierarchy. And I'm like, just be yourself, just be your own person, be your own coach. And then again, that in return might help the players. Can we eventually produce a world-class player? That would be great. Can we reach major tournaments every 2 years? Can we reach the Euros? Can we reach the World Cup? Reach the Euros, reach the World Cup? Can we achieve success? When I look back at some of the old footage, so I watched not just Sir Alex stuff, but I remember watching something on Busby, Steen and Shankly.
Aye, the Three Kings.
It's amazing.
It's really good.
You know what's amazing about those three guys? Is they talk all the time about their upbringing, about all the characteristics and traits that were that they developed as kids. So they weren't ashamed to be Scottish. They were proud to be Scottish, proud of their upbringing. They appreciated the old school, hard, the old-fashioned values, and they achieved success at the highest level. And now it's like we're embarrassed to be Scottish. You go on courses and they want to speak to the German coach, the Portuguese coach, the Spanish coach. I'd stand there and I'd be like, I'm a Scottish coach. I'm proud of our accent, how we deliver training. Proud of, but everybody, they want to change and adapt and adjust things. I'm like, that's no right. Shankly and that loved being Scottish. You heard him speak. How good is it listening to him speak?
So good, mate.
Oh, I love it.
YouTube videos of that guy, man. No, I'm with you, mate. And I think that I was used to think that, when I was in America, and obviously what the difference was, and the reason I went was I was getting paid a full time. I was getting $4,000 a month to coach 3 teams at the time, and that was, as time went on, that started to not be enough to live as life goes. But that's why I was able to go do it. And my mates always used to ask me, I'd be like, but like. And this is where I think it's changing, which I'll get onto. But there was nowhere you were having to commit. Let's just say, for example, you at Hearts, you're having to commit that so much time to it. But you also are getting older, and you need to live life, and you want to get your own place, and you want to have a car, and if you have a girlfriend, you want to go on dates and do it. So like, there's a balance of things where like that was just not possible for coaches. But where I think it's going to change now, and I've noticed it, is like to yourself and Liam and other guys that do it, you can now with social media, you can run your own business and make money alongside doing the coaching, and it feeds into it, which then hopefully will allow you to get opportunities to then go coach. Yeah, because I know exactly what you mean, because I know we spoke about this before the show, but I've been to America a handful of times as well to go and coach camps or to go over as a guest coach. I went to Florida a couple of times, New York, in Canada. I was twice out there, and I know that they've got the pay to play scheme, which has pros and cons. What doesn't really? Everyone's got pros and cons. So that allows you to have a wage, and it would be good, here as well, if people have wages through coaching grassroots football. But the problem, as we spoke about, is then the parents think they own you because they're paying your wages. So if you're getting that $4,000 a month or $4,000 a month, and you've got wee Timmy, Tommy, Johnny, Paul on the bench, their parents have got to come up and chat and say, like, we're paying you. He needs to play. And you know what? They've maybe got a point with that. It's hard not to.
I know. So whether in here, we just talked about all the things that I try to do as a coach to build resilience and all that. I can't have a parent coming up to me saying, why is he on the bench? And I would have a different response for that. Especially if it was just a short, if he's on the bench for one game, I wouldn't tolerate that sort of chat for a parent. If it's happening over 3-4 months and they're looking at, maybe we need to move on, that's fine. But in America it'd be different because they generally are paying your salary.
It is, man.
And it's here, it's almost like, how do we get coaches paid? Because that's an incentive for more to get involved in it without it being ruled or dictated to by parents. I don't know if could be funding schemes and sponsorship or whatever else, but because you get paid at being an academy coach, Grassroots is predominantly volunteers, and by the way, those guys do so well giving up their time, and I know sometimes they come under a little bit of flack, and I'll sometimes at private sessions, or I hear about this happening at private sessions, they're like slating their coach, and I'm like, well, that's a dad, in most cases a dad, 100%. And he's training in the snow, the sleet, the rain, the scorching sun. He's training your kid, trying his best. So you can't knock that. And without the volunteers, there would be no football.
Mate, those guys are working a full-time job, have families, have wives, have kids, mate, and they're showing up, like you said, in the rain and that to help you. I mean, it's
not everybody can be an expert, and I've been able to commit to football coaching as my job. So obviously, I'm going to go above and beyond to learn things about it. I'm going to go on courses. I'm going to go abroad. That was something I probably never mentioned, but I went to South Korea for 3 months cool. when I was 21.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So you can go do those things that can give you the opportunity to learn. You can put yourself in an environment to learn. You can process things that you can then put onto your kids. Dads, as you say, that are working those jobs 9 to 5, they're not going to be. It's not even fair to use that as a comparison.
No energy, man.
But is there incentives and schemes that as a governing body the SFA could put in to help grassroots football? by the way, academy football needs help as well. And because I've got a lot of players probably in my team just now that, you know, that's us finished under 15s.
Yeah.
Some of them are starting to attract interest and get offers. To be honest, any single one of them could go to an academy. You know, I would think that we would be better than all academies bar the big boys. You know, Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen. Again, you can get an odd age group that's very good at maybe, I'm just using an example, Motherwell might be really good at 09s, or St Mirren might be really good at 09s. But the majority of other ones, I'd go play in a heartbeat and think that we are just as strong. It's just the name's different, Lochend to whoever else, you know, Ross County, Inverness. They're a professional club, we aren't. So any of my boys could go, but the question is, you know, will it be more beneficial for them to go just now? Is it better for them to go just now? They need to weigh up all the pros and cons. They have an impartial coach in me. You know, I'm not a parent within the team. I'm making decisions and choices based purely on the game that's at stake. If I play 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 4-3-3, that's because I think that's best for that opponent in that game. Not because my son plays wide right and I'm trying to play 4-3-3 to get him in the team. So that's what helps me with my decision making, is the parents know that it's genuine. Am I going to get every decision right? No, but that's part of the parcel of life. You know, I'm going to make mistakes. And I said that to the players before we played the Scottish Cup final. I'm going to get things wrong today, but I'm not going to allow it to, you know, influence me. Because I feel sometimes with kids, you know, it could be like a minute into the game and maybe they kick the ball at the pitch and they try to play a pass, and it's like, are you going to let that dictate the next 8 to 9 minutes if you're playing a 90-minute match? How does that doesn't make any sense in terms of the ratio. Something that's happened in minute 1, the next 8 to 9 minutes are influenced. Get out the system. The best players in the world will constantly go get the ball again. You know, we mention the word bravery sometimes in Scotland. People assume that's pushing somebody in the chest. It can be that, I suppose, if you're Roy Keane or whatever, but bravery is making a mistake and thinking, you know what, I'm going to go ask for that ball again. And I say that to players all the time. Be brave, be willing to make mistakes. Again, time and place. If you're a centre back, I'm not going to say, right, get the ball for the keeper and then start doing some shoulder feints to take on the striker. I'm going to start shouting and going ballistic if I see that. But mistakes are, you know, again, relative to the position they play, to the kid himself, but go get on the ball again and go do things again. And be brave in that sense to do it, because I've had to do that. We've all had to do that.
Absolutely. What, just out of curiosity, just a couple of minutes on, what was South Korea like? South
Korea was amazing. So I was only 21 when I went. So I went for 3 months. I went to Seoul and I was going to coach for, they were actually, it was Nike, a Nike Academy. So Nike was obviously the funder. They were putting all their money in. They wanted British coaches, so they got me out from Scotland and they took a guy from Liverpool. He was in his 40s. He was a great guy. Gave us our own studio apartment each. Again, I lived at home at 21, so I'm used to like, Mum, I need my dark washing done. And then I remember they just gave me the keys for the studio apartment, and it was like the boy thought nothing of it. And I remember he walked away and I was like, I'm giving my own space, my own responsibility. But it was good. And so I'd open the door and I was thinking, well, I need to be at training on time. I need to go to the shops and, you know, buy my food, cook my meals, maintain a house for 3 months. So you had all that responsibility on you as an individual, and then there was obviously the coaching side. So it was quite unusual. It was like shopping centres, huge, like 4 or 5 story shopping centres, and the football pitch was on the top level, which was in like the sky, like in the air. So you'd go out and like you would obviously get the fresh air hitting you. It was an AstroTurf pitch and it was like a complex. You'd have offices, you'd have like an indoor gym. Quite amazing. Probably because the space influences Japan, China, Korea. So they can't just go, there's not a lot of, in Scotland we've got a lot of farmland. They can just go buy like HTC, I assume was farmland before they bought that. They don't have that in Korea. So they're thinking, I suppose it's being proactive and quite innovative, and they decided we'll build it on top of San. So it was really good. We're coaching kids from like 6-year-old to 16 years old. We were only really coaching maybe like, what was I even doing? Maybe 4 till 8. And because I was with our coach, maybe I'd do an hour, he'd do an hour. So you're only doing 2 hours, he's doing 2. But what was interesting to me was the culture and the society over there. Amazing. Polar opposite of us, because so we'd finished football at 8. And then the other South Korean coaches that were with me, the other guy was called Steve, the guy for Liverpool, the English coach. And they said to me and Steve, we're going to go out to a restaurant, we'll get chicken. And I was like, no, I've bought some stuff in the shop. Like, no, you don't understand. Everything's social. So we'll go to a restaurant, we'll eat, we'll have beers, we'll have chicken. And then they were trying to take us to karaoke or whatever else afterwards. But it's just so social. And I think in British culture is you work 9 to 5, you go home, you put Netflix on, you sit on the couch. And I was like, this is a better culture. So, you know, everybody's involved in things, and I just thought it was better for friendship, for families, for, you know, just creating certain bonds. We were able to create bonds with the South Korean coaches so well, because every single night you were going out for food and drinks with them, and then back to coaching. It was brilliant.
That's great, man. Yeah, that's different. I think anytime you can go to a different country and get a different experience of just the culture, not even necessarily the coaching side of things, but just the culture. Well, it's huge, mate. Yeah.
When I came back, when people would ask me how South Korea was, I'd mostly respond with things that I've just said. I would speak about, you know, the things we were doing afterwards, you know, the interaction, the societal issues that were, or not issues, societal differences, the cultural differences, and then they're like, at the end of me speaking about what was the coaching like, and that was the last thing to come to fruition that I would go and speak about. And I thought it was just an amazing trip to have at 21, and I think people should go and experience things like that, whether you're a young player, a young coach, or you've got nothing to do with football and your life's going to be, I don't know, you're just going to go into an office job or something, the opposite of what I was wanting to go into, but still go and experience something. You can use it yourself. But it also gave me time, because I was there for 3 months, it gave me time to think about what I wanted to actually do, because I think like anybody here at 18, 19, 20, you go out a lot, you're probably involved in with a group that you maybe shouldn't be involved with or whatever else, and it gave me a chance to think, you know, what do I actually want to do? I want to apply myself properly to coaching. So I came back, and that's when I fully committed to it, you know, because football's Sunday mornings, so you can't go out on Saturday nights. I've had to commit to that for 9 years. Obviously there's times when you do have to go to something, you know, if it's a wedding or an engagement party or a pal's 21st, now it's pal's 30th, so whatever. But you'd have to understand that you're going to either have to take it easy or be home early or whatever else. But there again, we spoke about earlier with the guy at the pub, sitting saying, could have, would have, should have, if buts, maybes. If you want something, you'll commit to it. If you don't, you'll make an excuse.
Mate, 100%. I found that as well towards the end of my time, man. If I really look back at it, mate, I did love it, and I did apply myself for it, especially when I was younger. So I was there for 8 years. I would say certainly the first, you know, maybe the first year getting settled and all that and stuff like that. So maybe year 2 to about year 5, I applied myself and I was really into it. And, you know, you're talking about your Lochend team having them for 3 years now. It was the same over there. It was good. We had the team for about 3 years. And if I look back, that year 3 was the most successful year. Do you know what I mean? However you want to put that in terms of doing well in tournaments and stuff like that. But ultimately, I didn't have the love for it enough to like give that stuff up at the end of the day. That if I look back at it now, I really didn't. I loved football, but I loved it more in a sense of I loved watching the games and talking about it as we're doing now. If I really now like that's really what it was for me, because it's a big commitment, mate.
But again, you've got the self-awareness to understand that and recognise it, and then make a decision based on that, and there's no right or wrong with it either. You know, some people want to do other things. What is, you know, if somebody's saying they want to be a professional football player, then you have to show me with your actions that you actually do, or do you just want to pretend to be a football player and you actually want to go out to parties now? And the big thing now is vaping. All the kids, you know, they vape all the time. So it's for, you know, I speak to mine, you know, stay away for drinking, vaping, partying. There's this in football, it's unlike other things. You know, if you want to be, for example, an actor or a politician, you can go into that in your 40s. Football and other athletic sports, you have a very, very short window to apply yourself and to commit to it. So it's like now or never. So why would you not just give it between? So obviously it takes years and years to, you know, you need to be at a level at 16. It's not like you just magically appear at 16 trying to be a football player. But my boys will have between 16 and 19, 20. That's your 4 years where you've got the opportunity to go into a first team. So give it those 4 years of full application, full commitment. If it doesn't work, at least you could look yourself in the mirror and say, I gave it everything. It just wasn't to be. I'm now going to look at coaching, or I'm going to look at going to university, or I'm going to look at something completely different. It might even be travel, but at least you can look yourself in the mirror and apply yourself, which is all you can really ask at times. So I say to the boys, stay away for vaping, partying, drinking, whatever it may be. There'll be time for that down the line. Now is your only opportunity for football. Just give it everything you've got.
Go for it. Go for it, man. No, you're spot on, mate. That's the most important. That's life, isn't it? If you can look back at that, man. Absolutely.
And you know, people's personalities have influence in that as well. You know, you see that within I've got 18 players within my squad, all different personalities. And if we relate it back to coaching, you know, personalities is massive. And another thing that they don't speak about on the, you know, the coaching badges, if I do them with SFA, personality is never a subject. It's just how good are you on the training pitch, and then how good are you maybe filling in answers or your textbook. If we look at we just spoke about Busby, Steen, Shankly. We spoke about Sir Alex.
Yeah.
We've touched on modern ones like Klopp and whatever else. Their personalities are why they were successful.
100%.
Klopp has got an amazing personality that he's been able to. Jose Mourinho's the same. They're able to attract and draw in people to their every word, and it's probably a very underlooked characteristic and trait for coaching.
I agree, mate.
If we're judging the modern coaches, and I know I spoke to you about this before the show with Pep. For me, Pep's a genius. I can't discredit him or give him disservice in that sense. What he does on the training pitch will be amazing. Whatever else he's done is amazing. But for me, it's always going to be Sir Alex Ferguson that's the best manager. He's achieved success with a team at Aberdeen, that we should have been put to the side by Celtic and Rangers, who are the big dominant forces here in this country. He took Aberdeen not only to win the Scottish League and the Scottish Cup, he beat Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, and I think people in the modern era, they don't know that.
They don't get that.
Aye.
And they don't get it.
Aye, because they compare Sir Alex to like the Klopp and Guardiola argument now about finances, take inflation into account. And I'm like, do you know what he done at Aberdeen, like winning those cups and
you
those
had
trophies?
to win the league to even get into the Champions, the European Cup then,
And again, I don't know, obviously it was before my time, but I only see it on his documentaries and that, but with those Bayern teams, and I know that Di Stefano was the Real Madrid manager when they coached against them, and the players that were probably in that Real Madrid team would be amazing, and I don't know the Bayern team, if that would have been in the 80s, so
they would have been class.
Aye, but regardless, they would be class players. So he's then earned the right to go to Man United, and by the way, that took him, if we're talking about time and management, that took him 3 or 4 years to achieve success. Took over in 86. And then he won the FA Cup in 1990, which they say kept him his job or Sean. First league title, whatever after. But it was the 90s before he had success, after joining in 86. So for me, it will always be Sir Alex that I would say is the best manager. And for the modern ones now, surely Carlo Ancelotti comes into it. And
I'd
again,
agree with you, mate.
His personality, isn't it? Which is opposite for how I want to coach. But as I say, there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no one rule for all. It's probably the best way to say it. There's not one rule for all in coaching. Carlo Ancelotti is calm demeanour, crazy calm, to be honest with you. Champions League semi-finals, he's scoring the last minute. It's just mental. But that's him, and he achieved success with it. With Guardiola, the thing for me is always going to be that he has spent over £1 billion at Man City, and he's got Grealish as a £100 million player on his bench. That's not coaching for me. Having a £100 million player on your bench, that's like playing FIFA and giving yourself like $1 billion budget. Now, do I think he's a genius? Yes. Do I think he's a good coach? Yes. But could he go and take Aberdeen and do what Sir Alex done with them? I don't think he could.
No, it's different, man. I totally get it. It's a great debate. I have this debate probably every night out. I have with my mates, so do you probably. But like for me, I always try and break it down and go, I think the influence that Pep's had on football is bigger. But I agree, I'm with you. What Fergie did, and it's a different time as well, Aberdeen, and then also staying at Man United for 26 years it was.
Yes,
that
the longevity
just doesn't happen anymore. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't happen.
The longevity is crazy. But I actually reread, because I've read them a few times, so I reread Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography recently, and he was actually very good at being innovative and modern. He was one of the first guys to bring in certain things, and again, it's probably just because there wasn't social media at that time, so there's less knowledge or awareness of it.
For sure.
And in his book, he's like, we done this because we started to scout South American players. We brought in Anderson, and I think they had was it Cleberson? So they were bringing in players from South America. So they're like, so we've done this, and this. So he was always doing something, and there was an action to go along with it. So he was very modern in what he'd done as well. It's just probably not perceived the same way because he was in his 60s, 70s. He didn't look like he was innovating. But he was. He was ahead. They
were ahead of the game. Mate. That's why they won everything.
I know that. Well, he was able to constantly build new squads all the time. Which is again, that's a trait in its own. He constantly lost his best players. Cantona retired quicker than what he thought because they were always struggling in Europe. That was a big thing. They lost to Monaco or Dortmund. I think it was 97 was Dortmund in the semi. I think that was Cantona, and they lost to Monaco 98. So he lost Cantona. He'd sold Paul Ince. Going forward a few years, he didn't care about getting rid of Beckham, Van Nistelrooy, Jaap Stam, Roy Keane. It just happened, and he was constantly always able to then go and have success again
and stay at the top too.
I know,
barely dropped below second.
But
I think.
And you just mentioned that Pep's had influence on the modern game. But then that also sometimes frustrates me because I see it across like different levels. So see, for me, I think as a coach, like, so if I was to be given the Celtic job, I'm going to play expansive football. I have the biggest budget in the country. I've got the best players at my disposal, best facilities, a massive coaching staff, blah, blah, blah. I'm able to get players for Japan. If I'm the manager of Albion Rovers, I can't play the same way, same expansive way. I'm going to be like, one, I've got to need to look at my players, and again, I don't really know much about the Albion Rovers players, so I'm not discrediting name, but just using it as an example, it comes into my head. I'm going to look at who I've got at my disposal, play to the best of their strengths. So if that means that we have to go back to front quicker, play off second balls, it's like people don't want to speak about these things anymore. Reacting to second balls is still a big thing. Pep does that. They react quick, but he calls it the 6-second rule, so it's got a fancier terminology, but really it's pick up second balls or transition quick. But if that's the way you want to play, so be it. Now again, without linking it back to academy football, and this is what I think a problem is for it, is because of the Pep thing. It's like everybody needs to play short, everybody needs to try and build out, everybody needs to do this, that, whatever. And I remember being at Hearts and beating a team 4-5, 6-0, and we're high pressing, winning it off them when they are playing out. And I'm like, surely this guy is going to change up the way he's playing.
Kick it.
You just kick it, because I think otherwise you're going to lose your own players. How is losing 7-0 good to their confidence? And again, just rolls it out, we take it off them, bang, score, finishes 7-0, and I'm like, that's not football.
Even for your boys, what do they really get?
What are they learning? So what are my players learning? What are his players learning? How is that him being a coach? A coach's job is to coach. So help your players. If they're making errors and mistakes, your job is to rectify that. So why are you still telling them to do the same thing?
Exactly,
because Pep does it, or because obviously that club that we're speaking about maybe had an infrastructure that they were to play short, but it's like anybody can just include that now.
It's the same what you said about Scotland with Iceland. It's just everyone's just copying that, and that's fine. But like, take bits of it, and as you've been saying to the whole thing, the theme of it is put your own spin on it.
Yeah,
like that's fine if you want to play out the back and have that concept and play that Pep way and stuff like that. And personally, for me, well, two things. It's quite ironic because I loved that Barca team that he had, and I remember watching the Liga games, and I loved it, and it was great, and I got great memories watching that with mates growing up and stuff like that. But my favourite style of football, and again, not just because I supported them, but Klopp at Liverpool, man. I mean, I love when Alisson grabs the ball and he's sprinting to the edge of the box, and I'm like, please kick it to Salah. Please just kick it to Salah. Like, fucking get it to him. Man. Like, I mean, I love, and don't get me wrong, and we had Thiago, and we play him and try and dominate, but like, I love that. I love the directness. I love the assurance of it.
Is that not two managers? So Pep knew that he had Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta. I don't know if Busquets maybe took a couple of years to come through for the very first Barca team, but at one point, at their strongest, they had Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, David Villa, Pedro, whoever, the Piqué, the best ball-playing centre-back at his time. Dani Alves, the best right-back at his time. Of course he's going to be able to play that way and do that stuff. He's maximising his team, and that should be a coach's job. Maximise your players, maximise your team. Don't just play some random blueprinted way because you think it's the right thing to do. Klopp, that Liverpool team, had Salah, Mane, Firmino, who were, like, he says it again, so I'm not trying to copy him, but the rock and roll football players that were so fast in transition, so fast getting at players that were good to be direct. I don't understand the discredit for Jordan Henderson. I always thought he was such a pivotal, important player.
So important, mate.
And if you know football, I always think that Celtic had so many successful years with Scott Brown. Different type of player, but Barcelona had Busquets, they hold the mid players, and then you look at Liverpool having success with Jordan Henderson. Those players and what they do sometimes doesn't catch the eye. I know the Busquets example is slightly different for Henderson and Brown, but I'm trying to get the same thing. That
I know what you mean,
less catchy to Xavi and Iniesta. But what Busquets done was pivotal at Barca. What Brown done was pivotal at Celtic. What I think Henderson done at Liverpool was pivotal. And I always think that Sir Alex Ferguson would have signed Jordan Henderson if he was still at Man United. He would have been his type of player. And he was so important.
Hitting the nail on the head, right? And that's the whole thing, again, what we've been talking about. But it's like, and look at Henderson now, went to Ajax, and I know it's kind of at the end, but like Henderson couldn't play in a Pep team. He couldn't, because he couldn't do the things that, I'm sure, by the way, if you got on a pitch of Jordan Henderson, none of us would get close to him. Right?
Of course.
But it's Pep's not signing him, but Klopp, it's spot on, mate, and that's what it's about. It's about you have your own style and bring the players in that suit that. Don't try and just do something with people that can't do it.
Exactly. And that's why, so you look at those best managers, so Simeone is Simeone. He's not caring, because if they go to his game finishes and then it cuts to the guys in the studio analysing his game, and they always go, I'm not a fan of the dark arts, I don't like the way he plays. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's going to continue to play that way and achieve success. If you look at Atletico Madrid before he took over, it's crazy the difference. Very rarely qualified for the Champions League. They were like battling just above the relegation places before he took over. Never finished outside the top 3. Qualified for the Champions League every year. Success for him. They've won the league twice, 2 Champions League finals against Barca and Real Madrid. They're competing against. Klopp doesn't care about Pep Guardiola's tiki-taka style, whatever. He's got to play rock and roll football, achieve success. Sir Alex going back, played his way, achieved success. You have to be your own person. That's what we're saying. Carlo Ancelotti's like that. He feels that he's got elite players on the pitch, superstars on the pitch. His duty and responsibility is for them to feel good, play good. The end result will be good. He's not going to micromanage.
Massively, man. And again, not to use this, it's just what it is. But for me, like, I've got one of my mates, Man United fan, and he always says how shit McTominay is, and I'm like, it's because you're trying to play McTominay as like a ball playing number 6.
Exactly.
That's not Scott McTominay's more Jordan Henderson than he is fucking Rodri. So stop trying to get McTominay to receive it on the half turn. And I know folk like, he's a pro, but it's like, as we both know, you coach, but like some people just don't have that. They don't play that way. Like, you're trying to force him to play a way that he can't play.
Well, you know who I think the best example of that is Gareth Bale, who was a struggling left back that couldn't get a game over Asu Akoto. Is that his name?
Yeah.
And then they changed him position, and before you know it, he's going past Javier Zanetti, Lucio, Walter Samuel against Inter Milan, who'd won the Champions League,
running
done
off
the treble.
Pitch against Barca.
Crazy. And it's like he just needed a change of position to maximise his skills. So that's what I'm saying. If you're a manager, first of all, or a coach, maximise yourself. What is your output and thought process on the game? Maximise that. Then you've got players at your disposal. Maximise them. And if you're a player, maximise your own attributes. Because I remember, again, reading Brendan Rodgers' book, because I always was quite fascinated with his story, because he was similar. When I read Pep's book, there's no... I can't really compare myself to that. It's not.
It doesn't hit you.
He's at the highest level player who's then, he played for Barcelona. He's then went into Barcelona B and then to Barcelona. So as much as it's nice to read and it's good to read, you can take things for that. There's no trying to the word with that.
It doesn't influence you.
The comparison's not there. Whereas Brendan Rodgers has had a similar journey up. He was working in Marks and Spencer's, coaching in youth academies at, I think it was Wigan or whatever, and then or wherever he was, and he developed a very good reputation. And when Jose Mourinho came into Chelsea, he said, I want the best English youth coach that's in the English game.
It was him.
And there was a couple of people put forward to him. He appointed Brendan Rodgers, comes as youth coach at Chelsea, and does great. So he's worked his way up from coaching part-time with a part-time job, developing a reputation as one of the best youth coaches in the country, goes to Chelsea to get the bigger move to work with 18s or whatever the equivalent was at that time. Then exposure to the first team at Chelsea, becomes a manager in his own right, and the rest of his journey goes on for there. So when I read his book, it's quite fascinating, and there's comparisons you can draw out. He said that within players, if they're looking to become pros, you can't be a 6 out of 10 at like everything, because you'll probably suit your coach at under 14s, 15s, 16s, because you'll play, you'll be good 6 out of 10 every week, 7 out of 10 every week, gets by. You need to excel in a couple of areas. Now again, people will probably start thinking about, so I need to have fancy skills. Not like, you could excel in defending, whether that's, you could be amazing in the air, amazing at making first contact. You've got to be a ball-winning centre-back. So it doesn't need to be fancy or whatever. Jaap Stam was an amazing centre-back because he was a ball winner. And you can still have defenders like that. Again, it needs to be relative to you. So it doesn't matter what Pep's got now with the ball-playing centre-backs. If that's not your thing, it's not your thing. Just make sure that you win every header, every tackle, and you make blocks and put your body on the line. Like, try and who's the most modern like that nowadays. Rudiger's like that. By the way, what a centre back he is.
It's class,
and the fact that Real Madrid got him on a free, didn't they?
Yeah, they did from Chelsea.
Their business has been so good over the last few years, because Mbappe's on a free as well, isn't he? It's crazy. But Rudiger knows exactly who he is as a centre back. And I know we just mentioned the Inter Milan centre backs and Bale was going past them, but when they were at their peak, I loved Lucio and Walter Samuel, Zanetti, Sergio Ramos was an amazing ball winning centre back. He could play as well, to be fair to him. But go and find out what suits for you and maximise it. Don't compare yourself to, if you're alongside our centre back and he's maybe good at playing the ball at his feet, think, well, we're a good combination. We balance each other out, the Ferdinand Vidic type thing. Don't look at it and go, maybe I need to do that more. It's like, no. You've got your own skills that you possess, maximise them, whatever they may be.
Absolutely, man. I think that's been the theme of the conversation. I think it's spot on. I think that's just been going for an hour. I think we've covered a good amount. I don't know if there's anything else that you think.
No, as always, happy to chat. Coaching, happy to chat football, adding we other bits and pieces in. Sometimes when we end up chatting about whether it's Pep Guardiola or we ask him about South Korea, it's just good to chat about all those things that are related to different journeys or different opinions or thought processes. So. No, it's been a really good discussion. So, as I said, thanks for having me on. It's been good to chat.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on, mate. I do really appreciate it. And again, I think this is a theme that I'll run with this. And I think the good thing about this stuff, man, is, we've done this and I'll obviously post it and tag you and everything. And then,
Brilliant.
let a bit of time go by and see what happens in your coaching career. And then we can always bring it back. And I'm sure your ideas and opinions might have changed or hardened down on them or whatever it might be, but I always think
some things should change, because if you're adapting and learning and growing, then some things should change.
Exactly.
I think otherwise it's just an old school mentality where you're just stuck in your ways, and things do evolve. So no, hopefully definitely down the line we can have another discussion and chat. That'd be good.
And I think for you've already mentioned it, but I think if you can try and look at getting yourself in somewhere, maybe into the men's game, like as we said earlier, like Liam at Musselburgh and stuff like that, like I think that would be good for you. I think you'd really enjoy that. I think you've got the personality, you've got the determination, you've got the understanding of the ruthlessness, and I think you'd be able to deal with that. So I think if that's what you're wanting to do, I think that would be a good step for you, man.
Definitely. I'll see how much further or longer I'll go with this Lochend team. We'll see how next year looks with us, and then I'd probably be looking at maybe going senior after that if there was jobs available. So. No, 100%.
Good, man. And what's all the, just so people that watch this, and what's the Instagram names and stuff like that? So
again, it's just the Declan Fergus Coaching Academy.
Cool.
So I've got the Instagram page for that and the Facebook page. So yeah, it's just after my name, and I put all my drills and videos and coaching onto those links.
Yeah, it's good, man. Perfect. I think that'll do us, man. I enjoyed that.
Brilliant.
Thanks for doing it, man.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers.